My job is to help them get this house, but they might not get it. So what I need to do is I need to present this situation in such a way that if they get the house, they're ecstatic. And if they don't get the house, they're not disappointed. In this episode of the Modern Agent Podcast, we discuss the concept of losing the deal, but keeping the client, which means when your buyer's offer is rejected, how to manage them through that disappointment so they continue with their process of finding another house until they are successful. Lose the deal, keep the client. What does that mean? What are we talking about? What I'm talking about is managing your relationship and managing the expectations of your buyer clients when they write an offer in a multiple offer competitive bidding situation, so that if their offer is not accepted, it's not the end of the world. It's a very difficult balance to strike when you're trying to advise a buyer to buy a house, but at the same time trying to manage their expectations that they might not get that house. Okay? There's a lot of margin for error. There's a lot of room to make mistakes as the modern agent when you're advising your client in this part of the life cycle. And of course, this concept of lose the deal, keep the client pertains to the entire life cycle, especially down the road in the contracts and the closings phase. But right now, what I'm talking about is, how do you advise a client? What do you say to a client when they're writing an offer and they're writing an offer that's competing with 3 or 4 or 5 other offers, like pretty much all of our deals are right now in this market? Not all of them, but a lot of them. If you're listening to this right now, you have probably been writing an offer in a multiple offer scenario on behalf of a buyer in the last 30 or 60 days, probably. And there's a good chance that your offer that you wrote was not accepted. Okay. What I want to talk about, I want to drive or drill deep into how to manage that at the beginning of the process, during the negotiation, and then after you find out that your offer was not accepted. Because as the agent, obviously your goal is to help your buyer buy a house. That's why they hired you. But as the agent, you have an impact on how that experience unfolds, how the whole thing goes down. So you can control only what you can control. You cannot control that the listing agent advised the seller to accept a different offer than yours. You can't control that. You can't control that your offer was contingent on commercial finance or conventional financing and the other offer was cash. You can't control that. You can't control that your highest and best offer was not the highest and best. You don't know. So there's so many things that you as the agent cannot control, and the buyers even can't really totally control. But what you can control as the agent is you can control how the experience plays out, how the buyer experiences the situation. And then hopefully you can manage it in such a way that even if you lose the deal, you keep the client. Now, what I mean by lose the deal, keep the client, I'm not talking about getting fired necessarily. I'm not saying that your buyer is going to fire you because your offer wasn't accepted. That's very, very rare. I can think of one time in 10 years that's happened to me. But I can think of dozens of times where I've written an offer for a buyer and it wasn't accepted. Dozens. And part of my job as the agent is to help that buyer through that process. We had a question yesterday from one of our agents, and she said, how do you handle a situation where your buyer has lost out on 3 offers and they just tell you they're just so fed up with the process they don't want to buy a house anymore? What do you say? What do you do? And of course, my first, piece of advice, like it always is, your buyer, it's your buyer's decision whether or not they want to buy a house. If they don't want to buy a house anymore, you're not going to do anything to change that. But what they're really telling you here, I think, because they've written 3 offers, is not that they don't want to buy a house anymore. They're telling you they're frustrated that they're losing out on the process, right? You can imagine that. So one of the mistakes that I see a lot of agents make in this part of the process is they'll get excited when the buyer's ready to make the offer. They'll be all gung-ho about the house. Yeah, this is a great house. You're going to love it. And okay, let's write it up and let's get this thing. Then they send the offer and the offer gets rejected for one reason or another. And then the agent starts to badmouth on the house. And they'll say something like, that wasn't the house for you anyway. That wasn't the right house. That house was a piece of garbage. That's not what you wanted. Don't worry about it. And I don't know I mean, there are different motivations for that kind of behavior or that kind of communication style. I think well, first of all, it's not good, by the way. It's a terrible thing to say. But I think if somebody has a good heart, they're trying to make the buyer feel better. They're just saying, hey, you know what? It's like when somebody dumps you. Forget that guy. He was a jerk. Well, a week ago, you loved him, right? And now he's a jerk. It's the same thing with the house. When you wrote an offer on that house, that buyer wanted that house. They loved that house. They were trying to move into that house and raise their family at that house. So to tell that buyer the next day that it was a piece of junk and it wasn't right for them, where 24 hours earlier you were telling them it was right for them, not only is that not classy, but it's also disingenuous because you lost all your credibility. And a lot of times those used car dealer, people get that reputation for like that. Oh, this is the right car for you. It's perfect. We don't want it. Actually, this is the right car for you. It's perfect. And then you got some salespeople that will do this other, they think it's the next level of sales where they say, well, that's not the right car for you. This one is. But in reality, you guys, whether you're selling cars or you're helping people buy houses or whatever you're doing, it's not your place to tell the buyer what the right house is or is not for them. You are an advisor. You are a counselor. You're a fiduciary. You're representing these people, trying to help them through their process. They make the decision which house is the right house for them. And then if they make that decision and that offer is not accepted, it is not incumbent upon you to dog on the house and make them feel better about the house that they really wanted by saying it was a piece of junk. That's not what you do. And I think even the people that do this, that have their heart in the right place, I'm talking to you right now. Your heart's in the right place. You're trying to commiserate with your client, make them feel better. That's a good thing to do, but not at the expense of your own reputation or your own, credibility, and also not that way. So how do you handle it then? What do you say? How do you help your buyer when they find out that their offer was not accepted? Well, one of the things that you should do to begin with, it makes this part of the process a lot easier, is manage the way that you be very strategic in the way that you present to them what's about to happen before you submit the offer. That way, if their offer is not accepted, then they're not as disappointed.
So, excuse me. I was going to ask you, but you're going in the right direction with, you almost answered the question for me, is especially in this type of market, would you set the expectation early, being like, listen, there could be a good chance that there's going to be multiple offers on any house that we put an offer on. There's going to be a chance that we're going to lose out on multiple. So would you set the expectation early, or would you wait before you wrote the offer? Like you just mentioned, I can throw in my personal experience on there where, our first house that we bought, when we were looking, we put in a few offers on a couple houses, and we were in multiple offer scenarios, and they got turned down.
In your experience, how did your agent manage your expectations? Do you remember?
It was 6 years ago, so vaguely remember.
Okay. Well, let me answer both of your questions.
Okay.
And the answer to both of them is yes. Absolutely. They're great. They're great questions. The first question you asked me, I think, was, do you manage your clients ahead of time when they're just starting out in the process? And then, of course, how do you manage them, and do you manage them when you write the offer? The answer to both is yes. And I do this very strategically, and you should do this very strategically as well. And think of it, again, as almost like an exponential chart, okay? The pressure, if you will, or the seriousness of the situation, if you will, should start very low, and it should get higher and higher the closer and closer you get to actually writing an offer. So it sounds something like this. Hey guys, let's go. We're going to go have a fun time today. We're going to look at a bunch of houses, and we might find something we love and we want to, move our family into. We might not. So let's just have a good time and see what happens. At this point in the process, this is really just the fun part. This is where we have fun looking at houses. If we find a house that we really like, then we'll start to have those serious conversations about what it takes, in this competitive market to actually have our offer accepted. Because as you probably know, we are in a highly competitive, low inventory market, which means that you as a buyer are going to be most likely competing with other buyers on any house that you find in order to be able to buy that house. Don't worry about it right now. Right now, let's just focus on finding a house that we love. Once we get to the point where we found a house we love, we'll get into a little bit more detail on exactly what that dynamic and what that scenario will look like. And part of my job as your agent is to help you through that. And of course I will. And we'll have a good long discussion about exactly what our strategy for buying a house will be. And I'll help you to make sure you're informed and confident about all your options and what is most likely to be in your favor and most likely to be successful. And, when we get to that point, we'll get into more detail. Right now, I just want you to enjoy the process. Let's just have some fun looking at some houses. We got 4 on the schedule today. Let's go see if we like anything. Sound good? Yeah. Thanks, Logan. Sounds good. Don't be making you as the agent don't need to make the process stressful during literally the most exciting part of it. So you see what I did there? I kind of forecasted and foreshadowed some tough times ahead without ruining the day. I don't want to ruin the day, but I also want to manage their expectations a little bit. So in their brain, like you said, they know it's coming, but they're not worried about it yet.
Right.
And then, so let's say Lowell's the buyer today. I'm helping Lowell and his family look at some new houses. We look at 3 or 4, we go through the process, and the last house of the day, they fall in love. His wife's pointing at the corner of the living room. That's where the Christmas tree's going. Kids running around all over the place, knocking things over. This is it. Got the backyard he wants. It's got the central air. It's got the basement room for his jiu-jitsu mat that he wants to have down there. So they look at me and they say, Logan, this is it. And I say, Lowell, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like this house? How does this house fit your criteria? Lowell says, well, for me, it's a 9.5 out of 10. The only thing it doesn't have is that second full bath. I can live without that. Then I look at his wife and she goes, well, it's a 10 out of 10. And I say, well, why did I even ask Lowell? Because his opinion doesn't matter. Let's buy this thing. All right. So we're at a 9.5 and a 10 out of 10, which is the house that you make an offer on. That's the house that you try to buy. So, of course, I call up the listing agent. Listing agent says, yeah, and, we got 4 offers on the table, and I need your highest and best by 5 o'clock tonight. And it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay. So now, modern agents out there, have you been in this situation? I bet you have. You're showing a house. Your buyer tells you they love it. And then you call the listing agent and he tells you or she tells you there's 4 offers on the darn thing. And you got 4 hours to write yours up. Okay. Well, close your eyes for a minute. Just freeze frame here. We all know what we're going to do. We're going to go meet the buyer and go write an offer. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how to frame the conversation for Lowell and his wife. Because it's very, very tricky. Lowell has a 20% chance of getting this house. 1 out of 5, 20%. Okay. Lowell and his wife really want this house, especially his wife, because it's got the right size living room that she really wants and with the view to the park and she can walk to work and da-da-da-da-da. Okay. They want this house. And my job is to help them get this house, but they might not get it. So what I need to do is I need to present this situation in such a way that if they get the house, they're ecstatic. And if they don't get the house, they're not disappointed. So I have to but here's the trick. I have to manage their expectations, manage their excitement, but I have to be careful not to go too far. Okay? Because we're talking about buying a house, buying a piece of real estate, a big investment for these people. So they have to go, and remember, this is maybe their first experience, or maybe they've only done this once in their life before, which basically means it's their first experience. So they need to have their hand held through writing a contract and structuring terms and, signing documents. Like, that's a big deal for your buyer. You forget about that because you do it every day, but it's a big deal for Lowell and his wife and their family. They're going to go home after that and think about it all day. It's going to be really exciting. They're going to post on Facebook that they wrote an offer, which hopefully they don't do, but that's a different story. And so as the agent here, it's kind of like a doctor when they look at the x-rays and they see something, like they don't know it's cancer yet, but they know it's something, so they don't want to go out and say, hey, you got cancer, but they also don't want to say, hey, you're totally healthy. So, but you know what I mean? So it's kind of like that dynamic. So the question is, how do you say, what do you say? How do you do it? How do you lay it up? And, what is your ultimate objective? So for me, I would say my objective as the agent, of course, is to help the buyer get the house. But my internal objective is to, if I'm going to lose the deal, I want to keep the client. Fair? It's my job. And take the selfish angle out of that, because obviously it's clear that it's selfish. I don't want to lose my client. But take the selfish angle out of it. I want to lose the deal, keep the client, because my client hired me to help them buy a house. And part of the home buying process sometimes includes writing an offer on a house that you didn't buy, that you didn't get. Okay. Some buyers buy the first house they write an offer on. Some buyers buy the fourth house they write an offer on because they lost the first three. My job is to help Lowell and his wife buy a house, whether it be this one or the next one. You see what I'm saying? So here's how it goes. Lowell, Crystal, let's meet at the office, 2:30. Come up with a strategy. We'll structure our offer terms, and then we'll say a couple Hail Marys together. Okay? Lowell comes in, Crystal comes in, 2:30. They have a seat. Okay, thanks for coming in, you guys. The purpose of this meeting today, right now, is for us to come up with an offer strategy, structure the terms of the offer, put it together into a contract, and then submit it to the agent. And then the agent will present it to the seller, and hopefully they'll come back to us with good news that our offer was accepted. Another possibility is that they'll come back to us with what's called a counter offer, where they present a different option than that which we provided. And then, of course, the third option that could happen is they could reject our offer altogether and accept a competing offer. Okay, so that's what could happen today. Freeze. Now, rewind and listen to that again. The first thing that you'll notice is I laid out the objective of the meeting very clearly, step by step, so you and Crystal knew exactly what you were getting into and what to expect. And then I laid out the three options that could occur. And you notice how matter-of-factly I did that. Mm-hmm. Lowell, one of the things that can happen is your offer could be accepted just like it was written, and that would be the ideal outcome. Another thing that could happen, Lowell and Crystal, is that your offer could generate what's called a counter offer, where the seller, proposes some different terms, and they send that back to us to consider. And then, of course, the third thing that could happen, which is not ideal, is our offer could be rejected and another competing offer could be accepted. Those are the three things that could very likely happen today. Our job here, part of the objective of this meeting today, is to try to structure the terms of the offer first and foremost so that the seller can accept it. And then, of course, you guys can be happy that the seller did. So in other words, we want to structure the terms in such a way that if the offer is accepted, you're really happy and excited. And if the offer is not accepted, you don't wish you had left more on the table. Or you don't feel like you had left something on the table and wish you had done more. So I'm going to help you through that today, and we'll come to that, those terms together here in a minute. But I want you to understand, when you write a contract to buy a house, the intent of doing that is to buy that house and live in it. And that's what we're doing here today. If it's meant to be, this will be your house. But Lowell, Crystal, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And it's really that simple. Okay? So when we write this offer and we submit this offer, I want you guys to understand that we're going to do everything in our power to get this house and make this house ours. And hopefully that's what will happen. We'll get it. But we might not. And I want you to know that if this doesn't work out, we'll be disappointed. It will be sad. We'll have to brush it off. But we'll get back on the horse and we'll find another house. I've seen it happen 100 times. Okay? In this market especially, when there's, in your price range that we looked at today, there's 3 active listings for sale and there's 25 pending sales, which means that 25 out of 28 houses are pending sale, under contract. What that means is that there's a very low inventory and there's a lot of buyers competing for the same house, which means that we're in a situation where we may be successful and we may not. If we're not successful, that happened for a reason. That's all I can say. All right. But right now, I want to focus on the positive. I want to do everything that we can to structure the terms of this offer to maximize your chances of actually having the offer accepted. And then we'll be able to go to sleep tonight and know that if we got the offer accepted, we did a great job. And if we didn't get the offer accepted, it wasn't meant to be because we did everything that we could. And it just didn't work out that way. The universe did not line up for us to be in this house. Okay. Crystal, can you live with that? Well, I guess, but I'm going to be really disappointed. But yeah, I guess that makes sense. And of course, everybody's different too. Crystal's personality profile is different than X's, Y's, and Z's personality. Some people say, I've seen it every different way. They'll say, hey, if it's not meant to be, Logan, it's not meant to be. It's not the end of the world. And then you got the other side of the spectrum where, oh my God, we're going to be devastated. Well, gauge who you're talking to, gauge the personality profile that you're talking to. And if you have somebody on that far end of the extreme that is really emotionally connected, you have to spend a little extra time with that person to make them feel comfortable. And if you have somebody on the other side that's pretty matter of fact, more engineer minded, hey, it's meant to be, it's not meant to be, A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Well, great. Just move along and keep going. But remember too, those people do have feelings. They just communicate them a little differently than the other side of the spectrum. So don't go too fast, but just understand that it's a big responsibility for you as the agent that you're managing. You're managing a highly emotional, highly impactful situation to your clients right now. This is one of the most highest of the hierarchy of needs is the roof on your head, right? I don't know what it is. You're talking about. We're talking about people's houses where they live. This is a big deal in their life, okay? This isn't what shoe they should buy or what, this is a big deal. So, Lowell, Crystal, what are we going to do? How do we want to structure the terms of this offer? Well, Logan, we don't know what to do. What should we do? You ever had that one, you guys? You got that question before? We don't know what to do. What should we do? And that's code for, Logan, you're our agent. That's why we have you, buddy.
You're the advisor.
Yeah. You know what I would say? I can't give you good advice until I crack a go.
Finally.
You've been looking at that
how many have you had already today?
No comment.
No comment.
What do we have here today?
So we have the sour apple sniper. If I can get mine open, Logan already has his open.
I'm double fisting.
Let's be honest. How many do you have in one day?
3. I limit
What's the recommended amount?
I limit to 3. I have 1 in the morning.
Okay.
I have 1 around lunchtime. And then, because I got to go home and see the baby. And then towards the end of the day, when I come back to work at 8 or 9 or 7 or 8 or 9 at night, I usually have another one just to keep rocking. Okay.
I think that's about 3 cups of coffee for people wondering what the caffeine content of these are. So 3 cups of coffee. It's not bad.
Not bad.
If you're drinking 8 of them, then we'd have a conversation.
It's better than Monster.
Very true.
Better than Bang.
That's very true. Very true.
Well, it helps when you got go, when you're presenting offers, helping your clients write offers because you got to be fired up mentally.
Mental clarity.
Yeah. I did take some Alpha Brain as well. Lowell, Crystal, the offer that we should make is the offer at which, if it's accepted, you're really excited. But if it's not accepted, you don't wish you had offered more. The listing price on this house is $100,000. The listing agent has informed me that there are at least 3 other offers on the table. And then Crystal says, well, I talked to my mom and she says I shouldn't offer more than full price. We talked about this yesterday in Huddle.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now I got to be careful not to be disrespectful or condescending here, but I might say something to the effect of, okay, well, I appreciate that. That's clearly good motherly advice from your mom. It sounds like she's trying to protect you. Now, when your mom gave you that advice, Crystal, did she run any comps? No? What's a comp? Well, a comp is a comparable sale. When other houses that are like this house, what they sold for. Did she analyze any of those when she gave you that advice that you shouldn't offer more than full price? Well, no, she just said she's never done that and she couldn't believe that we would need to do that. Say, okay, I understand. I tell you what, we're going to run some numbers here in a minute to see if 100,000 is what we think the house is most likely worth. But let me ask you a question right now before we do that. If there are 4 offers on the table after 1 day on market on this house that's listed for 100,000, is it more likely that at least one of those offers is above full price? Or is it more likely that none of those 4 offers that were generated after less than 1 day on the market from this house in the inventory in a market with only 3 houses in this price range in the entire inventory, is it more likely that one of those or all of those 4 buyers have written an offer that's less than full price? What do you think, Crystal? Seriously, what do you think? What do you think? Well, Logan, most likely, I guess, probably at least one of those offers is above full price when they all know that there's other offers on the table and they're all working really quickly to try to get that house. Hey, I hear you. I agree. That happens to be my opinion as well. And we're going to run numbers to make sure that, the house is most likely worth, or at least possibly plausibly worth more than 100,000, which is what the seller is asking for it. And of course, even if it's not, it may be to you. And if it is to you, then it's okay that you buy it at that price if that's where you feel comfortable, because it's your house that you're trying to buy. It's your decision, not mine. But if we take mom's advice and we only offer 100,000, which is the asking price, against 4 other offers, according to your own estimations and my concurring opinion, we're not going to get the house. So let me ask you this, Lowell, Crystal, if we write the offer for 100,000, I send it over today, I call you back in 3 hours and say it was rejected, are you going to be disappointed or are you going to be devastated? You're going to be devastated? Okay. If I called you back and said, hey, we didn't get the house at 100. The guy down the street got it. He got it for 105. Would you have been willing to have paid 106 to get it? Yes? Okay, guys. That's the kind of range we need to be at. We need to be making an offer that we are willing to buy this house for and not regret losing it. Because we have to win it. I want you to imagine what's going to happen. We're going to write this offer up. We're going to send it over to the listing agent. He's going to print it out. She's going to print it out. We're going to go over to the seller's house, and they're going to lay 4 offers on the kitchen table in front of the seller. Yours is going to be one of those. Seller doesn't know who you are. No clue who you are. Okay? They don't know you're the nicest people in the world. I know that, but they don't know that. Of course, I'm going to tell them that too, and hopefully that'll make a difference. But at the end of the day, put yourself in the seller's shoes. What is important to you more than anything typically? 9 out of 10 times. It's the price. Or at least it's the first factor you're going to consider, right? If somebody writes an offer for 90,000, is that going to be considered? Is that buyer even going to be considered in this conversation? Probably not. So the price is the first and the most important factor in 9 out of 10 seller scenarios when they're thinking about which offer to take in a multiple offer scenario. So we have to be huge. We have to be big on the offer. We have to. We have no chance if we're not, because we're coming in here with conventional financing contingencies, appraisal contingencies, loan approval, inspection contingencies, all that stuff. There are a lot of things in our offer that a competing offer might not have. For example, it's very likely that we're going to be competing with a cash offer. That cash offer is not going to have an appraisal contingency, probably. It's definitely not going to have a loan approval contingency. So in order for our offer to be competitive with a cash offer, we have to have a higher price. Otherwise, we have no chance. If you offer 105 contingent on financing and the other guy offers 105 contingent on without contingency of financing with cash, you got no chance, right? Now, a lot of times cash buyers, they don't offer as much because they know that and they think that their offer is more appealing because it doesn't have the contingencies that yours does. So sometimes the cash buyers give you a shot. Cash buyer comes in and offers 110 for this thing. We got no shot anyway. It wasn't meant to be, right? Do you agree? Crystal, if one of the offers is for 110 cash, is it true that this probably just wasn't the house for us? Yeah. Okay. So we can't control that. Let's control what we can control. So we already talked about 105 and 106. That might be the number. And if that's the number, that's what we'll go with. But let me ask you this. If we offered 110,000 contingent on financing and appraisal and loan approval and all that stuff, and we have our inspection contingency to check that things out and da-da-da. If we offered 110,000, the offer was accepted, would you be excited? Yes? Okay. That's what we should do. That's what we should do. If we offered 150 and the offer was accepted, would you be excited? Nope. That's too much. I agree. That is too much. That house, objectively speaking, is not possibly worth 150. But objectively speaking, in a 4-offer, multiple offer scenario, it might be worth 110. The market value for that house, which is what the buyers and sellers are willing to transact for, might be 110 for sure. Okay. We know it's at least 100. We know it is because 4 people are scratching and clawing for the house. So 110 is a reasonable estimation of what the house could be worth. Okay. And this is the house that you want to live in, right? This house you want to have the Christmas tree in and da-da-da-da. Let's go get it. Let's offer 110. Okay. Let's offer the absolute most we're willing to pay. And if we get it, high fives. We don't get it, we left it all on the field. And it wasn't meant to be. Crystal, are you comfortable with that strategy? Lowell, are you good with that? You good to go? Yes? Okay, let's get it down. Let's write it down. We'll write it up. Oh, by the way, here are some other things we can do to make your offer more appealing. Da, 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 da. Talk about that later, some other day. The point here is I'm trying to help you guys have these conversations to get your buyers to the price that they need to be at to have a fighting chance. Then you present it. Then they call you. Listing agent calls you back 4 hours later, says, hey, Logan, thanks for the offer. You did a great job. 110 was not accepted. A lot of you guys have had that happen too. It's happened to us dozens of times here in the last 6 months. Just over and over and over. It's just nuts. 5 years ago, you did that. You guaranteed you got the house. I don't think I wrote an offer 10 grand over asking price 5 years ago ever. It's a different market. And that's another thing, agents, modern agents, you got to know what market you're working in. I had lunch with one of my best agents here the other day. He said, I'm really worried about these prices and these appraisal contingencies and da-da-da-da. I'm afraid my buyers might be overpaying. I said, based on what? What's the market telling you? I said, you've never lived in a market that was going up before. You have no comprehension of what that looks like. So you're advising your buyers not to offer 110. Why are you doing that? Well, I don't want them to overpay. Well, they're not getting the houses. So you're advising them really poorly because you don't understand the market dynamics. I didn't say that. That's not what I meant, but that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, if you're advising your buyers to offer less than they need to offer to get the house that they're trying to get, are you doing a good job? No, you're not. You think you are because you're thinking you're protecting your buyers, but you're not. You're giving your buyers terrible advice if you're advising your buyers to offer less than they need to offer to get the house that they want to have. As long as you're doing that ethically with eyes wide open and you're explaining to them values and situation and the market conditions and all those other things, you're really not doing them a good job if you're advising them to offer less than they need to offer. And a lot of agents are really big people pleasers. Most people are people pleasers. 9 out of 10. Drives me nuts. This is how that would have gone. Crystal says, well, my mom says I shouldn't offer more than 100,000. The people pleaser says, okay, 100,000's okay. Okay, sure. A people pleaser might push back once and say, well, what do you think? That's the wrong question to ask, by the way, because Crystal thinks that her mom is right because she has no other perspective. What do you think, Crystal? Well, I don't know. I'm not sure, but my mom raised me up and she knows me. She knows things, People pleasers don't push back because they don't want to have confrontation. But confrontation with your client in this particular period in the life cycle is exactly what you've been hired to deliver. I'm not saying like aggressive confrontation. I'm talking about the opposite of people pleasing, right? Lowell, how much you want to offer? Well, I want to start low and go from there. I want to offer 95. That's what I want to do. Okay, Lowell. Yes, sir. First of all, stop calling your clients sir. Okay, your clients are not sir. If you're calling your clients sir and ma'am out there, you're doing it wrong. This is an opinion. Just a little aside, if you will. You do not have a strong, trusting relationship with anybody you call sir or anybody you call ma'am. End of story. Think about it the other way. Do you know anybody who calls you sir or calls you ma'am that you have a trusting relationship with? The answer is no. Your clients have to trust you. They have to know that you have your best interest in mind. And when your client says, well, I just want to offer 95 and go from there, your client, who is a strong, assertive, type A personality, they're used to being people pleased because that's how they are. That's the dynamic they usually get. But it's not what they need. Lowell does not need to be people pleased when he makes a really, really strategically stupid suggestion. Okay? So I, as the agent for Lowell, I have to be very careful how I advise Lowell because I don't want to offend Lowell. And he's my client. And at the end of the day, I got to do whatever he wants to do. And a lot of you might be thinking, well, Logan, what are you talking about? You have to do what your clients tell you to do. That's true. I'm not saying you don't do what your clients tell you to do. What I'm saying is it's your job to help your clients understand what they should do. That is your job. And when you're a people pleaser and that's not your natural instinct or your natural personality profile, I'm talking to you guys out there, the ones that are saying, yeah, that's me, Logan. You gotta stand up right here in the life cycle. You gotta be tough. You gotta fight through your own personality profile because your clients need you right now. Everybody listening knows that in this scenario, 95,000 has zero chance. Everybody knows in this scenario that Crystal's idea of 100,000 has zero chance. What good am I doing for my client by placating their requests? Am I doing right by them by placating their request in this situation? No. I'm putting my clients at a tremendous disadvantage by placating to their to their suggestions. Now, sounds like this. I already did it once. I'll do it again. Lowell, we're in the same dugout. It's us versus everybody. Okay? And at the end of the day, if 95 is the offer strategy that you want to pursue, I will present it aggressively in good faith and I will fight like hell to try to get 95 accepted. But I want to go back to the conversation we just had with Crystal. We got 4 other offers on the table, 1 day on market, high, very, very low inventory situation. The value of this property objectively is at least 100, could be 110, 150. It could be. I mean, with the changing market conditions and the size and the location, the condition and the layout, here's some comps to justify this comment, but yeah, no doubt it's worth at least 100. Offering 95 puts us in a situation where we have almost no shot of having acceptance. In order for 95 to be accepted, that means that 4 other offers have to be less than 95% of list price. And so Lowell kind of shrinks back a little bit and he's thinking, because now he's an ego guy. I've just challenged his ego. So what I might say to close it up is I might say, hey, look, if 95 is what the house is worth to you, that's what we should offer. But if 95 goes over and we have a lot of regrets in 3 hours, you're still in control of this decision. You still have time to adjust that strategy. And I think we should. I think that clearly you want to try to get this house for Crystal. I can see that. And clearly your inclination to want to offer less than full price comes from a good place because you want to try to do the best you can financially for your family. So what we need to do here in this conversation is to balance that need to protect your family with your need to provide for it. And I can see that that's a tough calculation. My opinion and my advice here in this scenario is we need to go big. Let's go big. Are you ready to go big?
Let's go big.
Let's go big. Okay. Let's go 110. If we get it, high fives. If we don't get it, it's not meant to be. Gives us a much better chance. Gives you a good shot. And at the end of the day, you can rest easy knowing that you laid it all on the field for your family. Sound good? Sound good. Okay. Now, that was a little extreme, a little dramatic, more than it needed to be. Okay. I mean, you don't need to be like a manipulative, crazy person like I just was, but you get the point, right? You got to give a guy who's making bad advice or coming up with a bad strategy, you got to give him a way to change his mind, but you have to lead him there. Okay? If he comes back after all that and says, Logan, boy, you're a charismatic son of a gun, 95 is what I'm doing. Emily said this yesterday. She goes, sometimes my clients need to lose a couple houses before they get an offer accepted. That's true. And I didn't get a chance to address that comment yesterday in our meeting because I wanted to. I got disconnected from Zoom. But what I wanted to tell Emily was, yes, Emily, losing a deal can help your buyer get real in the next deal. But it's not the strategy, or it's not the chain of events that you want to occur. In other words, you don't want your buyer to have to lose a house before they'll listen to you. Okay? A buyer losing out on a house, especially if they didn't take your advice, if you play it correctly, can help you in the next scenario. Can also hurt you if you don't play it correctly. You start the I told you so crap. You're messing with Lowell's ego. Okay? So let's talk about losing the deal and keeping the client. Lowell wants to offer 95 and he ain't going to be swayed because he's got big shoulders. Okay.
Literally.
Yeah. All right, Lowell. Hey, Lowell. Okay. I respect that. I'm glad we talked it through. And at least now I feel like you guys have had all the information that you need to make the decision that's best for you guys and your family. I respect that. Let's write it up at 95. I will fight like hell to get this thing accepted. I want you to know that there's probably a low likelihood. Okay, you'll notice here I said low likelihood. I didn't say no chance, by the way. Always talking probabilities out there, you guys. If I say, Lowell, there's no chance this gets accepted, you're an idiot. Or that's the insinuation. If I say, hey, Lowell, I'll write this up for you, but there's no chance it's going to be accepted. I hear agents, not ours, of course, but I hear agents doing this all the time. It blows my mind. And if you're out here listening and that's something that you would have said, shake your head a little bit. Let the water come out of your ears. Let's think this through. Agent says, Lowell, that has no chance. I don't even want to write it up. It's not worth my time. What does that do to Lowell? First of all, Lowell's offended. Lowell doesn't trust me. I'm going to present it because I have to. Now Lowell's going to think I don't present his offers well. Okay? Are any of those dynamics going to make Lowell want to keep the client? No. Lowell's going to offer a stupid pricing strategy, and then he's going to fire me because of the way I acted. That's on me. It's not on me that Lowell is stuck on a bad pricing decision or Lowell's mother-in-law just can't get out of the way of this thing. I can't control that. What I can control when I'm losing the deal is keeping the client. 95, highest and best, 100% sure, totally confident, totally comfortable. We're okay with the understanding that this has a low probability of success. And if I call you back in a couple hours and say we didn't get the house, you're not going to be devastated. Yes? Crystal? Yes? Okay, let's write it up. I'll present it. I'll fight like hell. I'll call you back. That's how you present a bad offer. That's how you communicate with your client when your client wants to make a bad offer and you are unsuccessful in changing his mind. You don't say, no, Lowell, that's stupid. That ain't going to work. The seller will never accept that. You know what the other side of this thing is? God forbid, heaven forbid, the seller does accept it. I've made this mistake too. Not in a while, but back in the old days, in the rookie days. I would tell a client, there's no chance that gets accepted. And then it does.
No chance, huh?
No chance. Yeah. So what just happened? Now I've gotten my client a house at a tremendous discount in a multiple offer situation. And instead of my client being forever grateful to me, ready to, name his next born kid after me, he thinks I'm an idiot because I told him the offer wouldn't be accepted. And it was.
Now they told you so.
Now they told me so. I've seen that happen on more than, not in a while because of different dynamics here, but I've seen this happen a lot of times where an agent will tell a client they got no shot. And then it gets accepted. And then instead of being a hero, they were the ones that were incompetent. And the client now loses trust and confidence in you, even though you were successful in the endeavor. That is a controllable fail, right? Never speak, ever, in absolutes. Here's another absolute that you don't ever speak in. Crystal, if you offer 110, you're going to get this house. 110 is what you need to do to get it. You offer 110, I'll get you the house. You'll get the house. You want to do 110? 110? Okay, 110. Sign 110, 110. Now, look at the expectation that's been set up here when I say it like that to Crystal. 110 gets the house. I send it over. They sent it back. We got it. Great. Logan was right. Damn straight he was right. He told us that, and he better have been right. We don't get the house. Devastation. Lack of credibility. Lack of trust. Logan doesn't know what he's talking about. Not only that, but imagine the hope meter inside of Crystal's heart. Okay? The hope meter, the anticipation meter was up at the top of the heart when I told her that her offer would be accepted if she offered 110. So when I call her back and tell her it wasn't accepted, that thing plummets. Who made it plummet? I did. Why did I make it plummet? Because I managed the client very, very poorly. Let's try it a different way. Crystal, I believe that $110,000 puts you in the strongest possible position for your offer to be accepted. It may not be enough. It may be enough. It may not be enough. But it puts you in a much stronger position than 95 or 100. So if you're comfortable offering 110, and if 110 is accepted, and you would be thrilled, and if it's not accepted, you'll be at peace with that. That's what we should offer. And I'll fight like hell to get it accepted, of course. And if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if it's not meant to be, you offered $10,000 over the listing price and didn't get the house. Definitely wasn't meant to be, but you did everything you could. Are you at peace with that? Are you comfortable with that? Okay, let's do that. Different dynamic. Much different dynamic here. When you're managing your clients, you always want to talk in probabilities. You never want to talk in absolutes. When you're managing your clients, you always want to set it up so that if it doesn't go well, they're not shocked. And if it does go well, they're elated. So the result of the upside is exponentially higher than the result of the downside. You can do that by the way you set it up. So next time you write an offer, next time you structure an offer in a multiple offer scenario with your clients, I want you to do it in person. It's got to be in person, guys. Stop doing this over Zoom. Stop, or Zoom if you have to, but stop doing this over the phone. Stop doing this over dot loop. You have to sit your buyers down when you're writing a contract, especially a first-time buyer, but really any buyer. You got to sit them down and go hold their hand. You see how much hand-holding we just did? Expectation management. If you just write up a dot loop and you send it over by email and send them a text, say, hey, the offer's in your inbox, sign it and get it back to me. You are not managing any of the expectations, any of the emotions of your clients. You're skipping that fundamental Disney procedure. And you're putting your own job in jeopardy, if nothing else. Yourself. Because your buyers are not under control. Because you're not controlling them. You're not helping them to control their emotions, their expectations of what they expect is going to happen here. You're losing control of all that because you're not setting up the dynamic correctly. So next time that you're writing an offer for a buyer, set that meeting. Zoom is the worst case. I mean, Zoom is like the backup. In person, 6 feet away from each other, across the table is ideal. With your phone flipped over. Okay? So that you can focus. And you want your buyers to walk out of the room holding hands, hopeful, but rational, and understanding that they got the right guy. If nothing else, we got the right guy. Jeez, we don't get this one, we're gonna be bummed out, but he'll get us the next one. He'll be there for us every step of the way. Let's do one last thing, then we'll wrap it up.
Cool.
Let's make the phone call. I'm gonna make the phone call that you didn't get the house. You ready? Ring-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. Ring-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
Hey, Logan.
Hey, Lowell. How you doing, bub?
Good, man.
I want to get in touch with you right away. I got news. It's not good. Our offer was not accepted.
Man. Not good.
Yeah, I know.
So what's the next steps?
Well, you need to break the news to Crystal. Give her a hug.
Mm-hmm.
Take her out to dinner. Get her a glass of wine. Tell her it's going to be okay, because it is. And get a good night rest. We'll get back on the horse tomorrow. But I can tell you this. I believe in my heart you did everything you could. You guys left nothing on the table. You did a great job. And it just wasn't meant to be. This is a tough, tough market. It's a tough time to be buying a house. But I guarantee you, we're going to find you another one. Have a good night, pal.
Thanks, man.
All right, take care. Did you hear anything about me dogging on the house?
No.
Did you hear me anything dogging on the agent, dogging on the seller?
Nope.
No. Nothing negative in that whole conversation. There's no added value to being negative. Ever. Especially when you're pointing blame away. Let's do that call again, but the price had been $95. Ring-a-ling-a-ling. Ring-a-ling-a-ling.
What's up, Logan?
Hey, Lowell, it's Logan. I just want to let you know your offer was rejected. They laughed at us and they thought that we weren't serious and didn't even bother with a counter offer. Yeah. Didn't go too well.
I don't even have a response to that. I really don't.
I know, right?
I don't have a response to that.
Of course you don't, because now I just told you were stupid. You know, another thing that people do that I hear a lender do this all the time: deferring blame. Defer blame. Look, if you made me send in a $95,000 offer and I told you it wasn't going to be accepted, why do I call you and rub it in your face? Why do people do that? Why do some people do that?
Yeah.
It's just ego. It's because I want my ego to be protected in the fact that the listing agent just berated me on the phone for being a stupid idiot. You know, so first I got to tell the listing agent, well, my client's an idiot. Okay, that helps things. No, just protects my ego. Then I call you up and say, you're an idiot, which just protects my ego. Why is my ego even involved in this? I'm the real estate salesperson. My ego has nothing to do with it. Hey, modern agents out there, your ego has nothing to do with the real estate transaction. Stop it. Stop it. Don't do that. As I say to Finn, don't do that. Don't
stop it.
Don't do that. No, little Finn, don't do that. Ring-a-ling-a-ling. Ring-a-ling-a-ling.
What's up, Logan?
Hey, Lowell, it's Logan. I just want to get back to you right away. I did hear from the listing agent. Unfortunately, our offer was not accepted. It's kind of a bummer, but they had several offers that were really, really aggressive. Some of the other buyers just were really stepping up to the table. They went really hard on this one, and our offer was not in contention. We didn't get a counter offer. Listing agent advised us that we weren't even close, and I told him I appreciated the opportunity, and I'd get back to you right away. And then if anything changes on any of those deals, give us a call. If we're still around, we'll come back to the table. But this one just wasn't meant to be, so I just want to get that to you right away so you could go to sleep knowing what was going on.
Yeah. That would be... Then my response would be the same as the first one after that. It's a softer letdown.
No ego attack.
No, none.
No passive aggressive. Lose the deal, keep the client. We're on the same page. We're on the same team. Right?
And tomorrow's a new day.
Tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow's a new day. Talking to you differently than I talk to her because she's the highly emotional one that's really connected to the house, and you're the strong type A ego guy that's made the bad decision. But both of you need to be managed.
Mm-hmm.
Your clients need to be managed, you guys. The expectations of your clients need to be managed. And the way that you communicate with your clients dictates whether you lose the deal and keep the client. And at the end of the day, your objective as the agent is to make sales for your family. The process of doing that is to help buyers whose offers are rejected stay the course until they find an offer that is accepted so they can do what their objective is, which was to buy a house altogether. You can do that. You got to practice this stuff. You got to be really, really aware and really specific and intentional about how you communicate with your clients. But I want you to start thinking more about what kind of dynamic you are setting up for the expectation of your clients when they're writing these offers, and what you're doing to control that. And always be working to improve that. Because the more deals you lose, the more clients you keep, exponentially worth a lot of money down the road. They buy a house with you, they call you back 5 years from now, they sell it with you. They refer their friends to you. They tell their friends how great of a job you did, how patient you were through their process, how you guided them through a tough experience or two, stuck with them, they stuck with you. And at the end of the day, you help them achieve their objective. That's your objective. That's all I got.
Boom.
Boom. Cheers.
Cheers. Highlight Logan really was double fisting those. So thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Leave a comment if you like. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, amongst many others. We also have the Modern Agent Facebook group that you can join, where Logan does some live streaming, Q&As. And if you do have any questions, go ahead and submit them through the Modern Agent Facebook group. And we'll see you next time.